From day one, when this law was to be signed into law, the head of judiciary in Lagos, Justice Opesanwo, was on ground to give open endorsement to Lagos State traffic law, not minding the fact that such a controversial law could be brought before the judiciary for interpretation. And that is why there is no independence of judiciary in Lagos. And that is why we don't expect anything short of what we got on Friday, when the entire prayers of the Okada riders and those of us in their support were thrown out. It's a fait accompli. Where there is freedom, autonomy of judiciary, the chief judge of Lagos State ought to have maintained a distance of freedom, autonomy from the legislature and the executive. He gave open endorsement to a controversial traffic law. And that is why people like us, we reject that court ruling. We do what? We reject that court ruling. This is ACN policy. This is ACN. Why are they not here with you to solidarize? So don't let any of you be fooled. That we say, it is a policy of ACN government. So don't be deceived. And don't also be deceived that PDP is the answer. They too can do the same. They can do the same thing. They are going to appeal, but it's absolute miscarriage of justice at the level of Lagos State Judiciary. Thank you very much.
To understand, in the context of an unjust system, the law is a law that is determined by the interests of the ruling class in that system. And since the ruling class in that system controls the economy, they also manipulate the law. And that's why we are not surprised by the fraudulent submission of the Honorable Court Judge, who in her own perversion of her own argument, because all the authorities that were cited by her were to the fact that once laws and regulations made by a lesser authority, in which case referring to the various state of assembly, come in conflict with law in the exclusive legislative list, by implication the federal law, that the federal law subsists. And against all presentation of her own fact, she went ahead to say, even though the assembly had no right to have made such law, but the law, which is the bad law that we have stated by the assembly, does not conflict with the federal law, and that law was made in the interest of what she called good governance. We do not understand what the interpretations of good governance are. The best a responsible government can do is to ensure that you either dedicate a lane to the Okada people as is done with the BRT buses, or you also provide alternatives, which is the alternative of tricycles that were provided in Akwa Ibom, in Cross River, in Delta, and Imo State, on the condition that it will not impact any additional burden on the current operator in their businesses. We appeal to Okada users that this struggle is not just about the Okada workers. It's about all those who, one way or the other, use Okada as the necessary means of transport. All categories of working people to unite in the struggle to ensure that the oppressed, the exploited, and the poor people in Lagos and Nigeria have direct access in determining the directions of their life and their security. In Abuja, Okada still operates fully in Abuja. The places where Okada were restricted in Abuja were even places where Okada ordinarily were not in that kind of large-scale operations that we are talking about. And we are talking of the Abuja city center, which basically, because of the other available means of transport, made even Okada unattractive. But you cannot talk of that in Yanyan. You cannot talk of that in Maraba. You cannot talk of that in Gaki. You cannot talk of that in Gwagwalada. You cannot talk of that in all those areas within the Federal Capital Authority, whereby Okada becomes available as a means of transport. It's like, for instance, now in Bodilon in Lagos, how many Okada are patronizing Bodilon as compared to Okada in Ojuelegba, Okada in Lawansi, Okada in Alimosho? Because only very few people have something to do there. If you know the geography of Abuja city center very well, outside the offices, surrounding the offices is either the Maitama district or the other places where only the rich live. So, in the first place, you hardly have Okadas in those areas. Secondly, even the questions of Port Harcourt that we are talking about, you see, outside the main major roads in Port Harcourt, which is the Aba Port Harcourt road, there were protests in Port Harcourt, because if you get to Rumukoro, Rumukwashis, and some of all those dinners, Okadas are still running in Port Harcourt. But in Port Harcourt, a taxi in Port Harcourt is operated like a bus, and you can get a taxi in Port Harcourt as cheap as 50 naira. Anybody that knows the geography of Port Harcourt very well will bear witness. If you go to Ibadan, taxi operate like bus. If you go to Ilorin, taxi operate like a bus. If you go to several cities in Nigeria, what it means is this: a taxi pick a passenger. Now from this junction, you pay your 50 naira, a pick another person. So which made that form of transport cheaper and available. The point we are making is this: a government cannot take the means of livelihood of a people and without alternative. And it must be clear to you that all the Okada people today, if they have means to write taxes, they will write taxes. But you are having a situation in Lagos in which even the poor cannot operate taxis in Lagos, because there is no poor person today that can afford to go and buy a car for 3 million. You are also aware that this offensive in the transport sector is a basic offensive against all the poor people. And that is why even for the taxi drivers, many of them are being restricted from the use of what they call the Tokubo car, which the ordinary people could have to afford to run taxis. So the point clearly is that you have a government that is clearly irresponsible to the people. And for us, that government must be made responsible. Judgment was adjourned indefinitely. And suddenly, when the last protest was declared, the police that has committed serious human rights violations, serious extrajudicial brutalities and killings of helpless citizens, were now talking about law, that there is a case in court, and that you should respect that. I think the first people to challenge to be the police themselves. Because if the police know there is a case in court, there is no reason why the police must continue to brutalize Lagos citizens on the account of that bad law. The second aspect why the protest must continue is this: even with the bad law, they lack the infrastructure to implement the law. We are not in the bush where they are hunting rabbits. Lagos, the police lack the database to implement a traffic law, a decent traffic law. And what it means is this: you must have all the records of all the operators. And that is what those countries they are referring to have. That you have a database of all those who operate in the periphery and in the precinct of traffic. In addition to that, you must have the monitoring camera, which allow you, when there's an offender to traffic, there are decent way by which the offender is alerted, by which the offender is ticketed, to the point whereby the offender has no option but to submit itself for proper judicial processes. But you have a situation that the police move on the road as if to say they are in the bush with a den gun and start shooting and brutalizing people. That cannot be accepted in a decent society. How do you expect a traffic offender in Lagos to go for 3 years jail for a very small offense when those who are looting the resources are daily walking the streets? You see, and none of them has ever spent 1 month imprisonment. Now you want the poor, who are poor because those resources are looted. Because if those resources are available, definitely you should have provide access for people to economic opportunity. So the protest itself is to show the anger of the people against who are repressing them. So, and to put a stop to all those bad policies, to put a stop to all those unjust policies. And for us, the protest is also to unite Nigerians. And that is what they don't want to happen. That it is in their own struggle that freedom lies. So anytime you see us protesting, it's a protest to organize the people, it's a protest to unite the people. So it's not just about the fuel, it's not just about electricity, it's to bring the people into that unity, that we need to struggle against all these bad policies, against this bad government, if the people will enjoy the freedom that they desire. So for us, there is no going back on that. But what should be clear is that if the police feel strongly about the protest, the best the police can do is to provide security so that their own sponsor elements will not constitute impediment to that protest. Let's make the point clear. We have had series of protests across the countries in which JAF has been involved. We have had protests in Maiduguri, we have had in Kano, we have had in Makodi, we have had in Owerri, we have had in Enugu, we have had in Ibadan, we have had several in Lagos. And there is no incidence of any of these protests hijacked. There is no incidence of any of these protests leading to violence. As a matter of fact, each time any protest leads into violence, the police will be held responsible. We want to appeal to the police that let them for once choose the path of being responsible. Let's refer the police back to May 1986, when the then PRO of police, Alejo Ogugwaja, stopped his colleague from shooting students of University of Lagos. That's to show you that some police people can be reasonable. Well, if this protest were to be for Fashola, I'm sure the police will allow the protest. So why must you now disallow a protest that is against a bad government? So the people have a right to dissent. So I to be on record that if for any reason this protest is repressed, the police must be held responsible. We are peaceful and law-abiding people, and our right of expressions of our genuine feeling cannot be stopped by any threat, you see, of any police. If the students in 1978 have not protested against the bad laws of the military, there will be no free tuition in the universities. If we have not protested and lost many of our comrades against the military, when military said it is unlawful to protest, people like Fashola will not even talk of the right to contest elections. So if we must enjoy our freedom, we will not tolerate any bad law. You want to make a law and you hide the most significant part of that bill, you see, until you have now said you have signed it into law. So that's what makes that law 40. That's what makes that law rule. If your law is popular, why must you put Schedule 2 inside your drawer? And immediately the National State Assembly said they have passed the Lagos traffic law. You bring the Schedule 2 from inside your drawer, you attach it, and you now said this is the new Lagos traffic law. So that is the most fraudulent and criminal act. You see, any governor can perpetrate against the people. Because there are two criminal acts the governor has committed. One, the act of not presenting Schedule 2 in the bill. The second criminal act is the social contract. Because he's a lawyer and he claims he's a son. A social contract is this: you make an electoral promise. It's clear before the public on Western Avenue. You gave the Okada the jacket, an element, the logo of your party. Vote for me. If you vote for me, I will not refute your operation. If you vote for me, I will make life meaningful to you. But what have you done? They have voted for you. You have the power. You are now using that power now to repress them. It's the most criminal act anybody will have committed. You get it? Human right now our property. So the questions of whether the entire Okada people are on the streets is not the determinant factor. Because what the state is doing is that the state is even threatening people to be out. So the most important thing, and that's the expression that you have seen here. You have seen the Okada people here who are saying this law is a bad law. Okada, is this a bad law or not? Bad law. Is it a bad law or not? Bad law.
Commissioner of Police, it's a bad law.
So it is not about using the state to intimidate the people. So the questions of success of a protest, and that's what the media must know very clearly. And one thing you must ask yourself is this: the Okada people you saw on December 10, were you paid money to be out? No. If Pachola were to organize rally now, they will pay people. Yes. To get out of that crowd, even their party members, they will pay people. Yes. So you are seeing people who are legitimately expressing their own opinion. Is that clear? Is that clear? That is the point. You see, the more the freedom people ask, the better. On that day, several people were registered from India. The people from Ajegule were stopped. The people in Mushin were stopped. They were in Padei, they already moved there with almost a battalion of cordon of people. In the Ikorodu and several places. Those are the things that will happen. If you know your law is popular, allow the people to be on the road. Abi? Yes. If you know the law is popular, allow the people to be on the road. Yes, and let's see whether the people will not carry placard as that. Pachola is a good law, Abi? Yes. That is the way it should be. As a matter of fact, the protest the Okada people want to do, and which we are doing with them, and which all Lagosians are doing with them, which all patriots and groups are doing with them, is like a referendum. Yes. If they think they are popular, let all be on the street. Let all the Pachola functionary be on the street. Let all Lagosians come to the street. And let's now have a referendum whether that law is bad or not. That is the clear statement. But they are afraid of the people. You get it? And we must tell them there is a precedent even in Lagos. You have a governor of Lagos State. For 4 years, 3 months, he lived in his house. The fence of his house was 3 feet. And that's Alhaji Lateef Jakonde. Nobody attacked him. Pachola cannot even move without escort in the premises of the State House of Assembly there. You will be afraid. You get it? So the greatest security is the people.